Today I'm going to talk about Cambodian airfields in the area of 1974-1975. Phnom Penh, of course, was the capital area, and it was the biggest town in Cambodia at the time. And that airfield was surrounded by the Khmer Rouge. The ramp itself sported a lot of shrapnel around it and also shell impact craters, but it was a terminal building. It was sandbagged for the passengers that were seeking to get out of town. The airplanes had a paved runway there, but alongside the paved runway was airplanes that had not made a successful trip. They'd been disabled or mishandled and crashed. That was kind of a sobering scene there. Now, Battambang over near the coast was an old town that had been sporting universities and colleges and things like that. And at one time they had intended for that to be a site for the Asian Games. And they had a soccer field and a stadium and all sorts of other things that you'd be able to use to put on the Asian Games, which never came. The town itself wasn't too far away, and the area was relatively secure. And I've spent a night there in one of the hotels, which of course, no electricity, and they did not have any dividers for the rooms as far as a door or anything else like you'd think of in a typical hotel. They simply had sheets hanging from the ceiling, dividing cots in there, so you had some sort of privacy for your bedding there in a cot, which wasn't too bad. And then the next day, of course, back out to the airport and on you rode again. Another site that I went into was Kampong Cham. That was a paved runway, I think 3,000 feet long. It was, and a good paved ramp. But normally you were hauling rice in and pigs and things like that. Very few passengers on the outbound legs because the road between the town and the airfield was not very secure. And the village elders had all been murdered and heads placed upon fence posts around the ramp as a warning. But that town you didn't linger in. My home base was Kampong Sam on the coast. That was a nice little town, and the place I stayed at was a motel down by the beach. At one time, Nordum Sihanouk thought that he could develop that area and make it something like Hawaii or such as that. So he had an area subdivided into lots for people to build homes on. And the roads were paved. It was quite nice. In Sihanoukville, which is nearby, they also built a hotel. And it was a nice looking hotel. The only bad part was there was no electricity for the elevators, so it was abandoned. And it never did come to fruition. Airfield in Kampong Sam was great. Paved ramp and everything else. And like all Asian airports, it was surrounded by pedicabs and noodle stands and things like that. It was idyllic in some ways, but there was a shadow of approaching doom, and it would form the launching pad for my escape. Thank you.